I'll do is give each of our panel members here a couple of minutes to give us a brief introduction to how they collect and transmit information, how we get that information into iCARE, what kinds of information is gathered, that sort of thing. Each of us have different systems for collecting information and securing it and transmitting it. And so, database and information management is the name of the game, and I'll introduce you to our panelists along the way here. Shiraz Amiry is here from the LARC in Calgary, and we'll tell you more about their stuff in a minute. And then Luigi Tummillo is here at WELARC in Winnipeg. Margaryta Marion is from LARC in Edmonton, and Jaci, sorry, I just forgot who was there. Jaci Hutton is from the LARC in Saskatoon, and Steve Reynolds is from Winkler Regional Connections. So I'll give each of you about 2 or 3 minutes to tell us about your system of data management and database and information management, and then we'll allow you to ask some questions and see where we go from there. So, Shiraz, are you talked out, or do you want to start next?
Yeah, hi, everyone. I don't know the type of information that we provide to you. I don't know to what extent would be of your interest. Because when it comes to reporting, there are certain people and certain organizations that they are actually responsible and accountable for reporting. So in terms of reports, maybe this may not be the right setting to ask this question. Right now, we are providing different type of reports: quarterly reports, monthly reports, annual reports. I'm not quite sure how effective all these reports are when it comes to so frequently being submitted. Especially when we have a quarterly report, right away we have to submit the monthly report the next month. So other than iCARE, of course, before iCARE is a new phenomena, we had our own system, and that we called it F-Data. That was an internal system that we used to keep all, or still we are doing it, of course, because we are not funded by just one source. We are funded by IRCC and also Ministry of Labor from the province as well. So iCARE is a system that IRCC has established, and they are very much interested to get all their information through iCARE. But when it comes to our provincial funder, they would not be able to get anything out of iCARE. So, of course, we have to have our other system active in order to generate the kind of report that the province is looking for. So, through years, I've been noticing that we have been providing a lot of information, that those information may not have been really to the interest, and also may not have been very beneficial to the funders as well. So as time went by, we reduced few areas that was not wanted, and we, of course, we provide whatever we can and whatever iCARE is asking us. The unfortunate thing is that when we ask information from iCARE, iCARE is not providing us that information. So this would be something that, although we have our central system, we have all our datas kept safe and sound, and whenever any funder, whether it's federal or provincial, if they are asking for it, we have it ready. But iCARE is something that's it is too ready to IRCC anytime they want to access. So I think in terms of reporting, this is all I can say at this point in time, but we will go around, and if I have something else, I will add on. Thank you.
Thanks, Rose.
Good afternoon, everybody. So with regards to the data management system we use at WELARC, we've gone through three different data management systems in the time that I've been with WELARC. The first one we had was solely developed by the province, and we used that when they'd asked us to work with the province to do assessments. The second type of data management system we were using was web-based, which was good. It was fairly fast. We could collect different types of information, save it, and it was readily available to all our staff internally and to the province as well. But when we here in Manitoba became fully funded by IRCC, not the province, having a provincially funded database became a bit of a tricky situation. So in April of this year, we partnered with a company here in the city called iStudy to develop a data management system specific for us. With this new database, we're able to collect all of the same information we were able to collect before, but with the biggest difference between this database and the last one we were using is every time we need something changed or updated, or we need a new report that needs to be generated, we can ask them directly without having to go through any middleman to get approval and then have the change implemented. Now we can just have the change implemented right away, and whatever report we need, whatever piece of information we need to collect, we can do that quite quickly now. So no data management system, I think, is perfect, but ours is getting there. We've only been using this new data management system again since April of this year. One of the good things about this management system that we've implemented is we can share information, the referral information, with the schools right after we assess the client. Whereas before, we would have to encrypt the file and have that sent off to whichever school a client was interested in attending. Now, almost immediately, once we've referred the client, the school can see who's been referred, when they've been referred, and all of their pertinent information right then and there. So, it's helping us to have a better understanding of wait lists that all the schools have. All of the schools are supposed to, once they've noticed a client in their system, they're supposed to either accept them or reject them. And so this is real-time information, so we can see who's waiting, who's not, how many people are, how many clients have been accepted into class, and how many are still waiting to get into class. So this is one of the key features that we like about our new data management system. So that's it. If you have any questions, we'll take them later.
I'm sure we'll have a lot of questions about iStudy because it's something that we learned recently, and it seems like it's a great tool to use and to keep waitlists up to date. So talking about LARC, the situation is kind of similar to what you have described, that we have gone through a number of different databases. With each of database, we tried to improve and enhance the previous one. So this March, we adopted a new database called ShareVision. It's a it's an agency-wide database. So basically, all the programs that Catholic Social Services runs needs to adopt the same database. As I said, it's called ShareVision. So what, in terms of information that we collect through our internal database, it's client's personal information, name, and date of birth, address, and immigration status, employment status, and whatnot, because we're again a language assessment center, so information related to clients' assessment results are entered into our internal database, the type of referral or referrals that the client received. On the top of our internal database, as Shiraz mentioned, we also have iCARE that we also need to populate in real time, and it's one of the requirements of one of our funders, federal funders, ICC. We have been changing databases based on the requirements that we receive from our funders, and they're changing. So this new database will allow us to collect and change the fields and data sets that we collect easily, similar to what you have described. So it's adapted more to our needs. Anything else that I would like to add? I think that's pretty much it. So yes, we at LARC have two databases currently, internal and iCARE. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Okay. So I'm from LARC Saskatoon. Other than iCARE, we have two separate databases that we use to record our information for our database management system. So we're using a program called Simple CTS. It's a website-based system, so sort of like these guys as well. We can actually customize it as well to look into different demographic information that we're trying to track. So recently, a big area that we've been trying to look at is where our clients are coming from within the city. So we're tracking neighborhood information. A big reason as to why we're doing this has to do with knowing where we want classes to be. Ideal places for clients, whether it be being able to get there via transportation or, it's closer to their homes, thus making it more likely that they'll actually go to class. This system also tracks other things, so mode of transportation, employment status, kind of just general demographic information. We also use Excel. So we have this password protected, and it's on a secure system as well, that only members from our administrative staff can actually access. So on the Excel spreadsheet, the information that we're tracking includes client type, client need, client challenges, as well as some demographic information for SAISHA based on refugees, as well as referral without assessments. So it's sort of tracking that extra information that we don't get from iCARE. Some challenges that we see with our data management system includes the fact that iCARE doesn't actually record referrals without assessment. So in our center, quite often, once every day for sure, we have clients come to us for a referral with no assessment. And unfortunately, iCARE doesn't track this information for us. It's also, we have locations in 3 different cities now. So we're in Saskatoon, Regina, and Prince Albert. So iCARE actually groups all of our client data into one report. So it's hard to kind of, see how each individual location is, improving through that report. One other challenge that we're having is not recording the overall CLB level in iCARE. So yeah, that's just a general summary of our database information systems.
I'm Steve Reynolds from Regional Connections Immigrant Services in South Central Manitoba. We're in the communities, 3 different communities, Winkler, Morden, and Altona in the Pembina Valley. So we're a small center service provider. Our catchment area is about 50,000 people. And we have all services organizations. We provide settlement and employment and language and community connections services. So I'm the director of the language programming and our placement assessments. It's one of the things that we do. So as far as data management, case management system, we need one that can handle all of our programs and activities. And so we've been working with a web-based one called Better Outcomes since 2005. We've been using it for the last 12 years. And the process there, how it works, all new clients to our organization, whichever of the 3 offices they come to, they start with a settlement intake appointment right away. And that's about a 1 or 1.5 hour intake appointment, and the settlement worker collects all the basic client information, and that's entered there. And then they're booked for a language placement test. So when they come to the language placement test, our assessors and program support staff already have access to that client information that was collected at the settlement intake appointment through our case management system. So that is helpful there. We eliminated a lot of redundancies. Our settlement programs and language program used to be separate programs, and it really became apparent the hoops we made clients jump through when we co-located. We moved into buildings together, but we're still separate organizations. People would fill out their registration forms and give all their information in one appointment, and then they would walk down the hall to another office and they would have to do it all over again. And then they'd walk down the hall to another office and they'd have to do it again. And they started asking us, why do we have to do this? I just told that person over there. And we said, great point. And so we worked, it took a few years for us to merge our programs into a single organization, but that was really for the best interest of the clients who just have a lot more efficiency regardless of what program or activity they're accessing. And so for assessments, yeah, everything is entered there in the case management system. It's not too onerous. We do about 200 CLBPTs a year. And so they're manually entered into the case management system and then also into iCARE. So for assessments, we're still doing double entry. For all of the rest of our programming, we're now doing bulk uploads from our case management directly to iCARE. So everything else is single entry, but for assessments, we're still working with a double entry system. And yeah, I think that's it for now. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you to all of you for that introduction to very different systems across the board. One of the questions that occurred to me was when you said, Steve, you do about 200 CLBPT, CLBPTs a year. How many are others doing? So it's rough numbers for assessment and for referral. I think you all do separate referrals as well, right? Yeah? Okay, Steve, you do 200 CLBPTs. Do you do separate referrals as well when a person finishes one program and goes into a next?
Right. Last year, I believe it was about 1,500 separate class registrations, I guess is the way we would count it. So nearly all our referrals are internal. We're the only language service provider in our region. So people are almost always registering for our classes. So they're not going somewhere else to another organization, other than when they register for online. Or if occasionally there's something they can access from Winnipeg by distance or people are willing to drive in. But okay. Probably 99% of the time it's internal. So yeah, about 1,500 different registrations last fiscal year.
Okay. Jaci?
Renata?
Yes, so in Saskatoon, we assess approximately 2,500 clients per year. And on top of that, we have about 500 referrals every year. In Regina, we assess about 1,700 per year, and we're still to find out how many referrals because the program will start in July.
And PA 250?
About 75 clients per year.
Oh, okay.
So in Edmonton, LARC operates two programs. One is funded by RCC, it's our LINK assessment program, and another one is called Language Vocational assessment and counseling program funded by Alberta Labor. So for our LINK program, we assess over 3,000 clients per year, and at least one client receives at least one referral. With the second program, LVA and counseling program, so we assess again over 3,000 clients, and we have last year we had over 1,600 return clients who may come for reassessments or other services, and one client may have more than one referral to different programming depending on their needs.
And at WELARC, we do about over 4,000, over 4,500 CLVPTs a year. And we do roughly over 2,000 referrals a year.
More than that. Yeah, it's about double. Actually, 45, we do between 9,000 and 10,000 person contacts a year, about 4,500 assessments, and then about 4,500 to 5,000 referrals.
Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I just did the stats not long ago, you know, so there you go.
So we are providing different type of assessments. So CLBPT is not the only time. We're dealing with CLBA and CELBAN and ELTPA and all those, the literacy, different type of literacy tests. So altogether, as it was mentioned, like LARC, we are having assessments for both federal government, the LINK program, and also for the language vocational assessment, which is the province. So altogether, last year, we were close to about 9,000 clients that we assessed. And so these clients are being, I don't have the chart to show you that how many of these clients are being assessed at PT, but I can tell you that most of our clients are being assessed with PT. Because you all know that it's a shorter version, and IRCC would like us to be efficient and to do as many assessments as possible, and that during our intake, we pretty much, this is one of our questions to our clients, that why are they doing this assessment? So if we know that it's just for no professional type of programs, then mostly APT is being applied. But a lot of other institutions that they are referring clients, they are actually asking for CLBA. And we do not quite understand. This was a question that whether this is part of their contract or agreement with the government, and CLBA is actually mentioned in the agreement, or this is something that they are just asking for it. So yeah, mostly ours are link geared, and they are PT. One thing we heard in our teleconference just a while ago, and we heard from Deborah as well, from Luigi, this new data management system that they are getting into sounds quite interesting. My question was that whether this system is quite close to the one that they're having in Ontario. It's called
is it CLARS or HARTS?
The HARTS, or this is something different?
It's something different, and I don't know. I'm not familiar with HARTS or CLARS, so I can't tell you what the comparison would be. Do you folks have questions? Things you'd like to ask them about?
Yes.
I have a question. How do you, one challenge that we have in Halifax is, and someone mentioned it on the panel, about follow-up. So we, offer ongoing follow-up. People call, ask for more information, or they send us an email, or show up, or make appointments. How do you track those? What are your different systems for be able to do, just to keep track of those, because it takes a lot of time and it is a big part of our work, and it's important, but it's I find it harder to track because, like you said, it's not tied to assessment.
Right. So how do you track follow-up appointments? Let's start down at that end. Oh, you probably want the microphone. Yeah, sorry.
I guess one advantage with our organization's model is we do 30, 60, 90-day follow-ups, and settlement workers do those. And they're created in the case management system through action items. So when they log in, they get a notification when it's time to follow up with the client on a service. And then their follow-up interventions are trackable in iCARE for them as a settlement activity.
Yeah, follow-ups are definitely always a challenge. I know in our Regina office, for example, we're in really close communication with the other service providers. So whether it's giving them kind of statistics as to who we're referring to them. We also will occasionally do intake calls out. So our members of our admin team will follow up with a client just to see how they're doing, if they ended up making it into class. We've also noticed that if clients aren't getting into class within 6 months or so, a lot of the time, which is good, they'll actually come back to us and just kind of ask, you know, what's going on, and we'll follow up for them at that point as well.
At LARC, I agree that the process of following up with the number of clients that we see per year is a very onerous task. And currently, for example, within our agreement with Alberta Labor, we have to follow up with about 50% of new clients that we see on an annual basis. So usually follow-ups either through phone calls. Again, it's proved to be not as efficient as we hoped this would be because clients may not answer, or depending again on the level of the language, the client may not understand who is calling. So currently we embarked on a new project jointly with LARC called Outcome-Based Measurement Project, where we are trying to figure out a better way of following up with clients, the way that could be more efficient and less maybe time-consuming on language assessors' side. But this project is underway, so hopefully next time we meet in Saskatchewan, we'll have more updates on the work and on the progress of the work that has been undertaken currently. Thank you.
So at WELARC, what happens is if a client contacts us, either the assessor they've seen originally, or if they just contact our information line, depending on what their question is, we'll book them an appointment to come in. If it's for a new referral, we'll refer them to a new program. If not, clients will come in and maybe have some questions or concerns. We'll speak with them about that, and then we'll note that on their file when they come in. But we can only do that if they come in. With our new data management system, now we can track more accurately how long a client has been on a waiting list for a school, and then we'll alert the school. If we don't see any movement for the client, we might ask why your list is so long and what's being done to clean that up. And so recently, schools have been more proactive in fixing that issue, but it's a work in progress. It's a work in progress. But more often than not, a client will come in for a new referral, and then we'll work on their follow-up from there.
So yeah, this follow-up is quite, for us, it has been done differently. When it comes to different funders, there are different requirements for follow-up. How do we follow up? Follow-up could be done through cold calls or warm calls, or it could be through focus groups, or it could be done through what we have in our office. We call it client satisfaction questionnaire. So clients are filling that form, and based on that, that would give us a feeling that how or what our clients are thinking about us. And in terms of the follow-up with our provincial funder, as Margaryta was saying, we are on the same boat right now, actually. As she said, we are going through a project, and that is to do with outcome measurement. And this is something that it would go on for a year, and we'll see what we will get out of it. We are working actually with a consultant, and this would be something that would definitely relate to our follow-up scheme. In terms of IRCC, since iCARE came into place, not really much of a follow-up is being done with IRCC clients, because those clients are actually being seen in iCARE in any ways. This is one. And number two, the wait list situation in different institutions was, as you all know, it was quite a bit of wait list, and it was so difficult, to follow up and see who is in class and who is not in class, who is on the waiting list. So it was quite difficult. So we haven't done any follow-up, at least for the last 1 year, for our IRCC. I can tell you that. Yeah, I think that's just about all I wanted to say. Thank you.
One of the things that as a manager of a program drives me crazy is no-shows. Hands up, everybody's driven crazy by no-shows. Yeah, 2 hands back there. One of the things, just to add to what Luigi said, that this new data management system that we have, we just had installed a scheduling piece to it. So what it will do in over time, and of course it hasn't yet, but over time it will give us a list of all the times that a person has made an appointment with us. So we kind of joke that if a person makes 2 or 3 appointments and doesn't show up, they got to talk to me. And I give them a rundown of, how many people's time you're wasting and how many people can't have an assessment because blah, blah, blah. So that kind of follow-up and tracking, I am not sure whether it just assuages my feelings of, annoyance and frustration, or if it actually will lead us to finding a way to make sure that people can, that we connect with them and can get them to come in when they make an appointment, and then we can keep track of how often they've been here. Other questions? Yeah.
It's more of a comment than a question. I always feel that, all of the information is being entered by our staff into a database. And the biggest issue is who has access to it. Do you know? Because we're entering information into our internal database. We're entering information into a federal database. And if there was a way, I don't know what the legalities of it are, but if there was a way for people to have access to the information a little bit more easily, we wouldn't need to do multiple data entry information into separate databases. If we had a single database, all the information was being captured there, certain people could access it, it would make all of our lives so much easier.
It would. Enough said. Yeah, Amiry.
I just wanted to ask about I think Regina, how you handle the information about where the neighborhood of where the client is coming from, and if I understood correctly, the reason was to figure out where they're coming from so the schools are in the correct place so that they're not taking, a long time to get there, and that could affect their attendance or even just wanting to join into a program. Can you just elaborate on how that came to be, and can you tell us a little bit more about the link schools and so on? I'm just kind of interested in that piece of information. I think it's really important.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, we recently, maybe within the last like 3 or so months, I guess before the summer. Yeah, okay, since January. Yeah. So actually, yeah, both Saskatoon and Regina. We've been tracking neighborhoods or areas that clients are coming from. Our Saskatoon location actually just started a mapping system as well. So they're actually going in and looking at each client and kind of sort of pinning them on the map. And it's really cool. So when you kind of scroll out, you can see the areas that a lot of clients are coming from. And so in Saskatchewan, we have the Advisory Council. So essentially what that is we have members from each service providing organization as well as from LARC attend. And we kind of get together, we talk about trends, things that we're noticing with clients as well. And so at that point, we could bring up, you know, where we're noticing a lot of clients are living, and where the classes really should start to be opening. So yeah, I hope that kind of cleared it up a bit. Yeah,
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
With our Share Vision, we can also run reports based on where clients live, and similar, we have meetings with WELARC. It's our advisory committee meeting for LINK SPOs, where, for example, recently there was a concern that not enough literacy classes were available in the south side of Edmonton. So just sharing this kind of information with our LINK SPOs that more, for example, newcomers are settling in the south side of Edmonton. So gives them a little bit more information and tools for advocacy and the possibility to open classes based on the needs of clients. So it's kind of similar to what you have commented on.
And sorry, just to follow up on that. So at WELARC, we're also trying to keep track of where clients are coming from in terms of, we're tracking them by their postal code. So to see what area of the city they're coming from. And not just clients coming back for referral, but when clients come in for assessment. We've had several stage 2 classes cut here in the city. So what we're trying to do is keep track of how many clients that have come into WELARC who are identified as stage 2 clients, who could be, who could attend a stage 2 class if there was one in their neighborhood. We're keeping track of that in our new database as well. So just one more piece where we can speak with our illustrious funders to see if they can help out in the future.
Okay. Anyone else? A couple of people have talked about, sorry, I'll come right back to you. A couple of people have talked about data entry and it being, you know, you enter it into a database locally and then into iCARE. How many of you have a method of uploading information into iCARE without having to do, or do you have to do separate data entry? Doing separate data entry?
We used to, at the very beginning, when iCARE was just about introduced, we started that way. But slowly we shifted and we went straight to the system, and we're doing it differently now. Because that would kind of, you know, double work, you know, if you happen to do it that way. So it works for us now.
Okay.
At WELARC, what we do is we can generate a report and upload that directly to iCARE. We're not doing any double data entry with us.
We do separate and data entry for iCARE in internal database, so it's quite time-consuming process for our staff. So hopefully in the future we'll be able to figure out more efficient ways of data entry.
Yeah, so as I had mentioned before, we actually have 2 extra systems other than iCARE. So we're currently trying to, I guess, just minimize the amount of data entry that we have to do and not be super repetitive. But yeah. definitely a challenge and definitely time consuming.
Yeah, for us, when iCARE was first rolled out, everything was double entry, so that was really bad for a while for being time consuming. But program by program, we're able to generate reports and bulk upload those to iCARE, except for language assessments. That's the one that we're still doing double entry for.
Okay. Sorry, who was it back here that had a question and I skipped around you? Oh, that was Lucille.
I had a question about referrals. I think I might be misunderstanding what you're saying. In Lethbridge, when we have, let's say, 800 assessments on an annual basis, I'm going to have out of that 800, 1,200 referrals. So I'm going to have at least 800 referrals to language schools, okay, plus additional community referrals. So when somebody is reporting you have 4,000 assessments on an annual basis, but you have way less than that for referrals, I'm not connecting with what you're saying. Could you explain that a bit?
Somebody want to do that?
So for us, essentially what we're meaning by that is that assessments, you get a referral off of those to a language class, and then the extra, say 400 or so referrals that we do, they come back to us and we refer them to class. So they weren't actually assessed at that time, we just had referred them to language school.
So it's like an extra referral. So everyone gets referred when they're assessed, but so if someone completes a program that only goes up to level 2, for example, and now they need to be referred to a new program, they bring in their report and their link certificate from the program they just finished, and we refer them on. So it's not a new assessment, it's a unique referral.
Right, so in Lethbridge, the schools do that themselves. They
Right.
go from, you know, in a smaller center, the schools would be doing that referral themselves, right? Once the client has reached level 3 or 4 in this school, then they're going to refer them on to the next school. They're doing their own assessment at the end, right? It's not necessary for the assessment center to get involved again, okay, with the client coming back, right?
When we have, in larger centers where there are more schools.
Yes, and it may bring a little bit of a conflict of interest here if schools would be doing referral between themselves, although we know that there are a lot of options available back there. So if when clients are coming back to receive a little bit of a counseling session, they get to know a lot about other community resources, and maybe one of those options would be the best option for them, not necessarily the one that the school is referring them to. So in the larger centers, it is quite difficult because more options are available, and we have to look into individual circumstances as well.
Okay. You tired? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I just had a question about how do you handle clients that, for example, they were originally tested in Calgary, received their first link assessment in Calgary, and then received their results, and then maybe after that they moved to Edmonton because we're so much better. Just joking. Sorry about that, Calgary. But I was just wondering, how do you handle those situations? Are they tested again over because of a certain time period lapsing? Do you issue the same results? I'm just very curious about interprovincial moves, or even city to city within the same province, how that client is treated.
Actually, that's an interesting question, because we had that similar situation happen about a month or 2 months ago with Biljana. We had a client who moved from Calgary to Winnipeg, and we learned during our pre-screening process that they had an assessment, or they'd been to school in Calgary, and we just had them fax over the results, and In this client's case, the results were a little old, so we had to reassess them before we could refer them to class. But if the assessment, if the link certificate was still valid in the last year, then we would have just used that to refer them to class.
Is that the certificate from the school, or is that the result of the assessment?
Either.
Okay, thanks.
And I think I wanted to talk about that as well, because I'm from Red Deer, which is halfway between Calgary and Edmonton. And sometimes clients come to us specifically because they don't like the results they got in Calgary or Edmonton, or they don't want to wait 6 months. And if we could look them up in iCARE, it would be really helpful. We're all spending all these hours putting everything in iCARE, but we can't get anything back out, and so I just have to go, oh, you're from Edmonton. Oh yeah, there's a really long waiting list in Edmonton. Okay, and just take their word for it. So yeah, it would just be so much more efficient to get information straight from iCARE.
Any comments?
I just wanted to add that at LARC we have a system in place, what we call it inland migrants. So these individuals who are coming from different provinces, for example, make a decision to stay in Calgary, these clients are being looked at their situation differently. We would like to ask them if they have ever been assessed before, and if they have, where, and do they have any results with them. So of course the last results and institution that they have attended, it could be seen in iCARE, but that's only the last one. But yes, we do make these inquiries, then accordingly they would qualify for reassessment or not. Because every individual who are coming to our center would not be granted a reassessment. And especially when at one point in time, when the economy was doing quite well in Calgary, we received lots of inland migrants. And if we hadn't gone through this process, we would have been in big trouble in terms of wait list. So we had to carefully look into those situations.
Okay. Anyone else want to comment up on the panel? Yeah.
Yeah, so in those situations, we take clients who come with sometimes the referral letter from WELARC if they've just relocated from Winnipeg to our communities, or link or progress reports from Winnipeg programs as well. And so the guidelines that I think we're correctly following are if their placement test is more than a year old and they were never in classes during that time, then we reassess them. And if it's a link or progress report that's more than 2 years old, then we assess them before putting them into class. But in either case, with new clients, they sit down with one of our program support workers, a learning coach, and she sort of does a learning intake with them, even if they're coming with CLB levels from another program, and she gathers some of their learning needs and background information and goals that are going to be the context for the decisions we make and the advice we give them as an organization. That all goes into our case management systems so that we have that organizationally.
Okay. Go ahead.
Just wanted to add one more thing in terms of reassessment. As much as I remember, I don't think if we have a really clear guideline, for example, from IRCC, to tell us in what circumstances are we able to reassess. We have it sporadic here and there. We have received instruction or guidance from our settlement officers. That is one thing, but But in terms of reassessment, for example, I have not seen anything cut clear to say that, okay, clients after 1 year of an assessment would qualify for another assessment. Number two, clients, so this type of formula, I think this is something that at one point I remember that IRCC had authorized the assessment centers to do only one assessment per individual. No more assessments. They entitled for only one assessment. And then the rest of the assessments, it was all determined by the providers, and they were, eventually they were being passed on to ESL providers. But this is something that, a lot of time, a lot of assessors and counselors, they have used their own discretion in terms of reassessment of clients, which is not right.
Isn't the guideline to have a new assessment if you have not? I'm just wondering, isn't the guideline sort of established by the CCLB in when you provide a new assessment, not IRCC?
My understanding was that an assessment for placement should have been done within the previous 12 months. So if a person is on a wait list for 1.5 years, then they probably need to be reassessed. If they've been on a wait list for 6 months, they can stay on that and then go into class. We do a lot of sort of case-by-case stuff, so right, if a person has been, they were assessed 1.5 years ago, but they've been home with their baby for all that time and in a milieu where they're only speaking their first language and they were foundations before, we're not going to make them do a new assessment. We're going to, even if it's 1.5 years old, place them into class, right? So it would depend a lot on, while it's supposed to be within 12 months, what's best for the client is often where I go to.
Just to answer the question about inland migrants, so LARC follows pretty much the same processes in terms of reassessment or assessment of clients who are migrating from other provinces. But in terms of reassessment, even within in the province of Alberta, we do have different requirements. I know that LARC, for example, may administer 2 link assessments, whereas at LARC we cannot assess clients twice under our link program, so each client can be assessed only once, and this is a requirement that was communicated to us by our settlement officer. So what I'm saying that even within the same province we may have different, guidelines or different information communicated to us. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anyone else here have a comment or a question? Here's, yep.
Could I just clarify, did you say, oh, don't need this voice. Oh, okay.
Okay, I just want to clarify, did you say that a person only gets one assessment ever?
Yeah, under LINK program, under our LINK program that is funded by ICC, so we can provide only one assessment. And if a person decides to come for reassessment, so this assessment will be covered by our provincial program, that is LVA and counseling program. Okay. So, but what I'm saying is that, for example, at LARC the situation is different, whereas the client can receive 2 assessments, as far as I understand, right, under LINK assessment program.
Okay, so you're from Alberta, is
yes,
it? Yes,
it's LARC Edmonton.
So Alberta has funded you.
Yes.
To a certain extent.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so you have 2 funders,
so
two government
we do
funders.
Have 2 programs. One is funded by ICC, another by Alberta Labor. But both programs are language assessment programs, right? So we do provide assessments under both programs,
okay.
LINK and LVE. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other burning question? I just want to ask you, maybe as a kind of, wrap up, how happy are you? On a scale of 1 to 10, no. How happy are you with your current data management system or systems, given that there are more than one for some of you? And if you had your druthers, what would be a perfect outcome? Oh, they're all racing for the microphone. Look at that.
I'm happy, but maybe my funder is not happy. Because I'm happy because whatever I would like to generate from my system, it happens. But the way and the shape that, for example, my provincial funder is requesting, maybe I would need to add some more fields, maybe I would have to develop that a little bit further. So this may bring a difference. And at this point, it was mentioned, Margaryta also mentioned about this system. We are looking into our data management system to see whether we will still live with it or we would have to move somewhere else. And that's why I was kind of questioning your system, Deborah.
We'll talk.
Because it sounds quite promising and quite interesting in terms of all those options that you mentioned. We have already looking into a shared vision system, and Margaryta has been helping us to give us a tour and a visit of the system and to see whether we can go to that system as well. So we are in a situation where we have to make a decision.
Okay.
I'd say I'm about 80% happy with our new database management. I mean, there are little things here and there, and obviously we can always improve. We just started with it in April, but overall, I'm pretty happy with it.
Good.
As I mentioned, that we just transitioned to a new database, so the process was not smooth all the way. It takes adjustment and getting used to new system. So wishful thinking would be to have one universal database system that will satisfy both funders and our internal needs as an agency, so that to not have this multiple entry of the same information. So I guess what I'm saying, just to have one database system that will meet the needs of all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that slowly moving away from multiple data entry will be awesome. As for how happy we are, we're fairly happy. I think through each improvement, we're kind of slowly getting there, which is good. So just working to kind of continually improve upon our database management system.
We're pretty happy with ours. I guess the biggest constraints, one is cost. So there are sometimes items on the wish list of features we would like or capability we would like, but there's a development cost to have that added to the program. That's not always feasible. So sometimes things just stay on the wish list. And there's also a cost for us for a number of users accessing the system. And so right now, for example, our language instructors don't have access to the system, and that's just a cost decision. So to figure out how to share information from the system with them, their staff, but they're not accessing the system, and stay within security guidelines and protocol and all of those things, that's one other constraint we have.
Okay. Any last words? Out here, last words? Okay. Thank you so much to all of you for sharing your experience.